Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dark Tales of America. I know many of you use these videos to fall asleep, so before you drift off, I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the video.
I never planned to come back. I told myself I was done with this place. I told myself the past could stay buried under wet leaves and cracked sidewalks and the smell of iron that never fully leaves the air. But on the first night of January, I drove into Black Briar again. That's the town's real name, Black Briar. Two words that taste like a warning when you say them out loud. The road in was empty. No traffic, no animals, no birds. The sky was low and gray, as if it had been pressed down by a hand. My headlights lit up the sign. Welcome to Black Briar. Population 2,103. Please drive quietly. That last line was new. Please drive quietly. I slowed down without thinking. I didn't know why. I just did it. The way people lower their voices in a church, even if they don't believe in God. The town looked the same at first. One gas station with a buzzing neon light. One diner with a faded mural of a lake that isn't clean enough to swim in. Old houses with roofs like broken backs. And then there were the speakers. They were mounted on poles like the kind used for storm warnings, except these weren't warning sirens. They were small and gray and pointed down toward the streets. I passed 3 of them before I made it to the center of town. I rolled down the window a little, just an inch. I wanted to hear what the town sounded like now. There was wind. There was the soft hiss of my tires. And under it, barely audible, there was a voice. It wasn't coming from my car radio. The radio was off. It wasn't coming from my phone. My phone had no signal. The voice was coming from outside. It was faint, like someone speaking into a pillow or someone speaking from underwater. I raised the window again. The voice disappeared. I stopped at a red light that didn't need to exist. There were no other cars. Nothing crossed the street. The light stayed red anyway, stubborn and patient. I looked up at the pole. A speaker was attached to it, directly over the intersection. It tilted slightly, as if it were watching me. I told myself that was ridiculous. Speakers don't watch. But I couldn't shake the feeling that if I turned the window down again, it would say my name. I waited through the red light. Then I waited through another red light. Then turned green, like it had decided I had been punished enough. I drove to my aunt's house on the edge of town. She didn't answer when I knocked. That wasn't unusual. She never rushed for anyone. She moved through life like she had all the time in the world. I used the spare key from under the flower pot, just like I used to. The flower pot was frozen to the porch from old rain. Inside, the house smelled like dust and eucalyptus. The living room lamp was on, but the room was empty. "Aunt Marin," I called. No answer. I stepped further in. My boots left wet prints on the wooden floor. I hated that. I wiped them with my sleeve like a child. Then I heard it again. The voice. Not outside this time, inside the house. It was coming from the kitchen. I held my breath and walked toward it. The kitchen light was off. The only glow came from the small radio sitting on the counter. A radio I hadn't seen in years. It was the old one, the one with chipped plastic and a dial that never sat straight. It was on, and someone was speaking through it. The volume was low, but the sound was clear. "Welcome home," it said. I stood still. My throat tightened. The voice wasn't cheerful. It wasn't angry. It was calm in a way that my skin itched. "Welcome home," it repeated. I took a step closer. The radio hissed softly between words, like breath through teeth. I stared at it, waiting for the next line, waiting for an explanation. The radio spoke again. "We have missed you," it said. My stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone I was coming. I hadn't posted about it. I hadn't called ahead. And even if I had, this was a radio. Old, dumb, dead technology.
Then the voice said my full name. First, middle, last. It said it slowly, like it was tasting it. I felt my eyes sting. Nobody in Black Briar used my full name anymore. Not since my mother died. Not since I left. Not since I promised myself I would never return. My hands were shaking now. I tried to hide it by clenching them into fists. "Stop," I said. "Who are you?" A pause, and then the radio answered. "We are the town," it said. That made no sense. Towns don't speak. But when it said it, I believed it. Not logically, not rationally. I believed it the way you believe a nightmare while you're still inside it. My mouth went dry. I looked around the kitchen as if I'd find a person standing behind me. There was no one. Only the radio. Only the dim shape of the hallway behind me. Only silence pressing against the walls. The radio spoke again. "We listen," it said. The lamp in the living room flickered once. The radio's dial turned by itself, just a few degrees, not enough to change the station, just enough to prove it could move. I backed away from the counter. The radio hissed louder, like a warning. "We listen," it repeated, firmer this time. "We remember." A memory hit me hard and sudden. A summer night, a forest trail, the smell of pine and wet soil, a flashlight beam bouncing in shaky hands, and a scream. Not mine, someone else's. I swallowed. My mind tried to dodge away, but the memory wouldn't let go. The radio said, almost gently, "You left something here." I shook my head without meaning to. I didn't leave anything. The radio clicked, like a tongue against teeth. "Yes," it said, "you did." Then it spoke the words I hadn't heard in 10 years, the words that made my knees go weak. The radio said, "Under the water, where you put it." My heart hammered. I stared at the radio like it was an open mouth. I couldn't hear my own breathing anymore. All I could hear was the low hum of electricity and the thin voice speaking from a machine that had no right to talk. I wanted to run out of the house. I wanted to get back in my car and drive until Black Briar was nothing but a smear in my rearview mirror. But my body wouldn't move because the radio wasn't finished. It said, "Go to the lake."
I whispered. No. The radio's voice sharpened. Go, it repeated. And then, like it was giving me a gift, it added, before we tell them. The kitchen seemed to tilt. The room felt smaller. The corners felt closer. Tell them what? I asked, and I hated how small my voice sounded. The radio crackled again. Tell them, it said, what you did. The lamp in the living room went out, and in the dark, a speaker outside the house turned on. I heard it through the walls, faint but undeniable, like the town had leaned in close to whisper directly into my ear. Welcome home. I did not sleep. I lay on my aunt's couch with my boots still on and my jacket pulled tight around me, staring at the ceiling as if it might fall and end the night faster. The radio stayed silent. That silence was worse than the voice. Every time the house creaked, I thought it was starting again. Every time the wind touched the windows, I expected my name to come sliding through the cracks. It never did. At exactly 6:12 in the morning, the town woke up. I did not hear an alarm. I did not hear traffic. I heard the speakers. A soft chime played first, 3 notes, calm, almost friendly. Then the voice returned. Good morning, Black Briar, it said. It was not the same tone as last night. This voice sounded warmer, brighter, like a host on a morning radio show. The temperature is 38 degrees. The lake is frozen at the edges. Please walk carefully. I sat up. The speakers were outside, but the sound felt like it was inside my head. The voice continued. Today is Tuesday. Trash pickup will occur on Maple Street and Lower Creek Road. I stood and went to the window. People were already outside. They walked calmly, casually, like this was normal. A woman pushed a stroller. A man walked a dog. 2 teenagers shared earbuds and laughed. None of them looked afraid. None of them looked surprised. I opened the door and stepped onto the porch. The air was cold and wet. It smelled like pine and metal. A speaker was mounted across the street on a telephone pole. It faced the houses like a patient eye. Have a safe day, the voice said. And remember. There was a pause. Then together, every speaker in town spoke the same words. We are listening. The sound faded. The town kept moving. I stood there until my fingers went numb. No one reacted. No one questioned it. That terrified me more than the voice itself. Inside, I grabbed my phone. Still no signal, no bars, no emergency calls. I tried the landline. Dead. The house was not a home anymore. It was a container, a place to keep me until the town decided what to do next. The radio in the kitchen was off. I stared at it for a long time. Don't, I said out loud. It did not respond. I left the house before I could change my mind. The road to the lake curved through trees that leaned too close together, their branches knotted like fingers. The ground sloped downward, and with every step my chest felt tighter. The lake appeared suddenly, as it always had, black water, wide and still. The surface was calm, but not smooth. A thin skin of ice clung to the edges, cracked and broken like old glass. This was where everyone came in summer, swimming, drinking, pretending nothing bad could ever happen here. This was also where things disappeared. I stopped at the shore. The dock was still there, weathered, crooked, one plank darker than the rest. I knew which one. I had always known. The memory pushed forward whether I wanted it or not. 10 years ago, August, the cicadas screaming so loud it felt like the air was vibrating. We were laughing. All of us were laughing. Then we weren't. I clenched my jaw and stepped onto the dock. It groaned under my weight. Halfway out, I felt it again. That feeling, like being watched. I looked up. There were more speakers here, mounted in trees, on poles, even one bolted to the side of the old boathouse. They were all angled toward the water, toward me. My heart thudded hard. "I came," I said, my voice barely above the wind. The lake stayed silent. The speakers stayed silent. For a moment, I thought maybe this was it. Maybe it had been a scare tactic. Maybe the town just wanted to remind me that I was not welcome. Then the water moved. Not a wave, not wind. Something beneath the surface shifted. The ice at the edge cracked softly. A speaker clicked on. "Thank you," the town said. The voice was different now, deeper, slower, less human. "You have always been cooperative." I swallowed.
"What do you want?" I asked. The water rippled again. The voice answered. "What you took," it said. "I didn't take anything," I said quickly, too quickly. The speaker hissed. "Yes," it said, "you did." My stomach twisted. "I was a kid. I didn't mean—" The voice cut me off. "Intent is irrelevant," it said. The lake darkened, as if a cloud had passed overhead, though the sky had not changed. "Return it," the voice said. My hands shook. "Return what?" I asked. The dock creaked. Then the voice spoke the word I had avoided for a decade. "Her." My breath caught. "No," I whispered. The lake surface broke, just slightly. Something pale moved beneath the water, not floating, waiting. My knees weakened. "I didn't kill her," I said. "It was an accident." The speakers all activated at once. The sound pressed in from every direction. "Accidents," the town said, "are still events." The water shifted again. I could see it now. A shape, long hair drifting like weeds, a face turned downward. "I was scared," I said. "We all were." Silence. Then the town spoke softly. "Only one of you stayed silent," it said. The memory snapped fully into place. The argument, the shove, the scream, the water closing over her head, the others running, me standing there, frozen, watching bubbles rise and stop. My vision blurred. "I thought she'd come back up," I whispered. The speaker closest to me clicked louder. "She did," the voice said. My heart skipped. The water broke the surface. A hand emerged, gray, swollen, fingers curled. I stumbled backward, nearly slipping off the dock. The hand gripped the edge. Water poured from it in slow, steady streams. "She came back up," the town repeated. The hand pulled. A head followed. Her face was wrong, not rotted, preserved, like the lake had been keeping her just for this moment. Her eyes were open. They found me immediately. I screamed. The speakers did not react. They waited. Her mouth opened. Water spilled out. Then she spoke. My name. The sound of it was thick and broken, like it had to fight its way through years of water. I backed away until my heel hit the shore. "No," I said over and over. No, no, no. She kept pulling herself out, slow and deliberate. You left me, she said. The speakers echoed it. You left her. I turned and ran. Branches tore at my clothes. Roots caught my feet. Behind me, the speakers followed, mounted on trees, on poles, on nothing I could see. Running is unnecessary, the town said calmly. I did not stop. The voice continued, unbothered. You cannot leave Black Briar, it said. I burst onto the road, lungs burning. A car was coming. I waved my arms, screaming. The car slowed. Relief flooded me. Then I saw the driver's face, blank, smiling. The speakers crackled one last time. We told you, the town said. We listen.
The car did not stop. It slowed just enough for the driver to look at me. He was an older man, gray hair, clean jacket, both hands on the wheel. His eyes met mine. They were empty. Not blind, not glazed, empty in a way that made my stomach drop. He smiled. Then he drove past me. I turned in a circle, desperate. Another car approached, then another. I ran into the road again, waving, shouting, begging. Every car slowed, every driver smiled, every car passed. None of them rolled down a window, none of them spoke. I stumbled back onto the shoulder and nearly fell. The speakers clicked on overhead. They were closer now, louder. Please remain calm, the town said. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit down. What is wrong with them? I shouted. What did you do to them? The town answered without hesitation. They listen, it said. A door opened behind me. I spun around. A woman stood on the porch of a small house nearby, middle-aged, tired eyes. A face I recognized. Mrs. Holloway. She had lived 3 houses down from us when I was a kid. She used to give out full-size candy bars on Halloween. Help me, I said, my voice breaking. Please. She looked at me like she was seeing a stranger. Then she smiled. It was the same smile as the driver's, soft, pleasant, empty. You shouldn't yell like that. They'll hear you. I already hear them, I said. Don't you hear them too? She nodded. Of course, she said. We all do. She stepped off the porch and walked toward me. Her movements were slow and careful, like she was being watched. They help us, she continued. They keep things orderly. I backed away. They told me to come to the lake, I said. They showed me. She raised a finger gently. Shh, she said, not outside. The speaker above us hummed softly. Mrs. Holloway glanced up at it, then back at me. Come inside. It's not polite to discuss these things where everyone can hear. I already hear them, I said. She smiled wider. Yes, she said, that's why we don't say everything. I felt sick. I ran. This time no one chased me. No one needed to. The town watched. I could feel it in every step, in every breath. Every streetlight had a speaker. Every store sign hid one behind it. Every tree seemed to hold something listening. I ducked into the old library. The doors were unlocked.
Inside, it smelled like paper and dust and mildew. I slammed the doors shut and leaned against them, gasping. Silence. Real silence. I looked up. No speakers. None on the walls, none in the corners, none in the ceiling. The relief hit me so hard my knees buckled. I sank to the floor. For the first time since arriving, I could hear myself breathe. I laughed. It came out wrong, too loud, too sharp. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay." The lights flickered on. I froze. A woman stood behind the front desk. Young, dark hair pulled back tight, a badge pinned to her sweater. Librarian.
Then the voice said my full name. First, middle, last. It said it slowly, like it was tasting it. I felt my eyes sting. Nobody in Black Briar used my full name anymore. Not since my mother died. Not since I left. Not since I promised myself I would never return. My hands were shaking now. I tried to hide it by clenching them into fists. "Stop," I said. "Who are you?" A pause, and then the radio answered. "We are the town," it said. That made no sense. Towns don't speak. But when it said it, I believed it. Not logically, not rationally. I believed it the way you believe a nightmare while you're still inside it. My mouth went dry. I looked around the kitchen as if I'd find a person standing behind me. There was no one. Only the radio. Only the dim shape of the hallway behind me. Only silence pressing against the walls. The radio spoke again. "We listen," it said. The lamp in the living room flickered once. The radio's dial turned by itself, just a few degrees, not enough to change the station, just enough to prove it could move. I backed away from the counter. The radio hissed louder, like a warning. "We listen," it repeated, firmer this time. "We remember." A memory hit me hard and sudden. A summer night, a forest trail, the smell of pine and wet soil, a flashlight beam bouncing in shaky hands, and a scream. Not mine, someone else's. I swallowed. My mind tried to dodge away, but the memory wouldn't let go. The radio said, almost gently, "You left something here." I shook my head without meaning to. I didn't leave anything. The radio clicked like a tongue against teeth. "Yes," it said, "you did." Then it spoke the words I hadn't heard in 10 years, the words that made my knees go weak. The radio said, "Under the water, where you put it." My heart hammered. I stared at the radio like it was an open mouth. I couldn't hear my own breathing anymore. All I could hear was the low hum of electricity and the thin voice speaking from a machine that had no right to talk. I wanted to run out of the house. I wanted to get back in my car and drive until Black Briar was nothing but a smear in my rearview mirror. But my body wouldn't move because the radio wasn't finished. It said, "Go to the lake." I whispered, "No." The radio's voice sharpened. "Go," it repeated, and then, like it was giving me a gift, it added, "Before we tell them." The kitchen seemed to tilt. The room felt smaller. The corners felt closer. "Tell them what?" I asked, and I hated how small my voice sounded. The radio crackled again. "Tell them," it said, "what you did."
The lamp in the living room went out, and in the dark, a speaker outside the house turned on. I heard it through the walls, faint but undeniable, like the town had leaned in close to whisper directly into my ear, "Welcome home."
I ran until my lungs burned and my legs shook. The streets narrowed as I moved deeper into town, away from houses and storefronts, and into older parts of Black Briar that most people pretended did not exist. The speakers thinned out here. That did not make me feel safer. It made me feel hunted. I passed boarded windows and rusted fences. The sidewalks cracked and buckled like the ground itself was trying to escape. At the end of the road stood the station. It squatted behind a chain-link fence, half swallowed by vines and trees. Black Briar Community Broadcast, Est 1972. The letters were peeling. The building leaned slightly to the left, as if listening to the earth. I hesitated at the gate. A speaker crackled somewhere behind me. "Please do not damage town property," the voice said calmly. I grabbed the fence and shook it. The chain rattled. No alarm sounded. The gate swung open. The building smelled like oil and damp concrete. Inside, it was dark. I stepped in and froze. Rows of old equipment filled the room. Control panels, dials, switches, microphones on stands. All of it was powered on. Red lights blinked softly like a heartbeat. The hum in the room was constant, low, alive. "This isn't possible," I whispered. No one answered. I moved deeper inside. Every microphone faced a single chair in the center of the room. The chair was worn smooth, like it had been used for decades. Above it hung a sign, "On Air." My throat tightened. I heard footsteps behind me. I spun around. No one. The footsteps continued. They were coming from the speakers mounted along the ceiling, recorded, looped, walking, pausing, breathing. The sound of someone waiting. "Hello," I said. My voice echoed. Then it came back, not as an echo, as a reply. "Hello," the speakers said, in my voice. I staggered backward. "That's not me," I said. The speakers responded immediately. "That's not me," they repeated. I clamped my hands over my ears. The voice continued anyway. "You came back," it said. "You always do." I forced myself to breathe. "What do you want?" I asked again. The red on-air light brightened. "We want balance," the town said. The speakers adjusted, turning slightly toward me. 10 years ago, a voice was silenced. The room felt smaller. "Every voice must be accounted for," the town said. "That is how we stay whole." I shook my head. "You didn't save her," I said. The hum deepened. "Yes," the town said. "We watched." The screens on the wall flickered on. Video feeds appeared. The lake, the dock. That night, I saw myself, younger, terrified, frozen. I watched her struggle. I watched myself do nothing. I screamed. The sound was swallowed by the room. "You recorded everything," I whispered. "Of course," the town said. "We listen." The microphones lowered. "Now," it said, "you will speak." The chair scraped across the floor. I did not move it. It moved anyway. It stopped inches from me. "Sit," the town said. I backed away. The door slammed shut behind me. The on-air light turned white. The screens went black. Silence fell. Real silence. Then the microphones all turned toward my mouth. The town spoke softly. "Tell them what happened." My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. "If I do," I said, "you'll let me go?" A pause. Then, "We will let you finish," the town said. I laughed. It came out broken. "You already know," I said. "Why do you need me?" "Because," the town said, "confession is transmission." The chair slid closer. The microphone hovered inches from my lips. I could feel its breathless attention. I thought of the binder in the library, of the transcripts, of voices turned into warnings. "I won't," I said. The speakers crackled. "That is unfortunate," the town said. The monitors flickered back on, the lake again. But now it was present. The water churned. She stood at the shore, dripping, watching. Her mouth opened. She spoke. Not my name, my words. "I didn't mean to," she said in my voice. My knees buckled. "That's not fair," I cried. The town replied evenly. "You taught us your voice." The speakers began broadcasting, not just here, everywhere. I heard it faintly through the walls, my confession, looping, distorted, growing louder. "No!" I shouted. "Stop it!" The town did not. "Black Briar," it announced. "We will now resume normal programming." The red light flashed, the microphones lowered, the door unlocked, the voice softened. "You may go for now." I ran. Behind me, my voice followed, from every speaker, from every street, telling my story over and over. And somewhere beneath it, another voice joined in. Hers, correcting me. I did not stop running until my legs gave out. I collapsed behind an abandoned storefront with a shattered window and peeling paint. My chest heaved, my throat burned, and still I could hear myself. My voice came from everywhere. From the speaker on the streetlight, from the pole at the corner, from somewhere farther away, echoing down streets I couldn't see. "I didn't mean to," my voice said calmly. "I was scared. I thought she would come back up." I clapped my hands over my ears. It did nothing. The sound wasn't traveling through the air anymore. It was inside me. I curled forward and rocked, pressing my forehead into my knees. "Stop," I whispered. "Please stop." The broadcast continued, patient and unhurried, like it had all the time in the world. Then I heard something else. Footsteps. Real ones. I looked up. A man stood at the edge of the alley. Young, early 20s, dark hoodie pulled tight around his face. He looked terrified. Not empty, not smiling. Terrified. He glanced up at the speaker above us, then back at me. "You hear it too?" he whispered. Hope hit me so fast it hurt. "Yes," I said. "You're not like them." He shook his head quickly. "No," he said, "not yet." He stepped closer, keeping his voice low. "They only let me hear it at night," he said, "when I'm alone." My voice crackled overhead. I froze. I didn't help her. The man flinched. "They're using you," he said. "That's bad." "Why?" I asked. He swallowed. "Because once they finish with you," he said, "they'll move on." "To who?" I asked. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I already knew. "To me," I said quietly. He nodded. "They pick someone who won't stop remembering, someone loud inside." A speaker clicked closer. The man stiffened. "We shouldn't talk here. They'll isolate me if they catch this." "Where can we go?" I asked. "There used to be places. Before." He glanced toward the hills. "The tunnels," he said. "Under the old quarry." I stared at him. "There are tunnels?" I asked. He gave a tight smile.
"There's a lot they don't broadcast," he said. My voice rose suddenly from the speakers, sharper now. "I watched," it said. "I let it happen." The man winced. "They're changing it," he said. "They're shaping it." "What happens when they're done?" I asked. He hesitated. "Then you won't need to run anymore," he said. That sounded wrong. "They'll let me go?" I asked. He looked away. "They'll let you stay," he said. The speaker above us clicked loudly. The man stepped back. "They're listening harder now," he said. "You have to decide." "What to decide?" I asked. He met my eyes. "Whether you're going to keep talking," he said, "or let them finish your sentence." A sudden silence dropped. My voice cut off mid-word. The absence was terrifying. The speakers hummed. Then the town spoke. "Unscheduled interaction detected," it said pleasantly. The man's face drained of color. "I'm sorry," he whispered. The speaker continued. "Please return to audible areas," it said. "Privacy causes distress." The man backed away slowly. "I can't help you anymore. If I do," he stopped. His smile flickered on like a switch. Too smooth, too practiced. "Have a good day," he said. Then he walked away. I stayed crouched in the alley, shaking. My voice returned, but now it wasn't alone. Another voice spoke beneath it, lower, wet, familiar. "She lies," her voice said. I squeezed my eyes shut. "I know," I whispered. "She always did," her voice replied. I stood up slowly. The town had made its choice. Now it was my turn. I did not wait for permission. I moved while the town was still listening, while it was still confident I would stay where I was. The quarry lay beyond the last row of houses, past the part of town where streetlights stopped pretending they mattered. The road turned to dirt, then gravel, then nothing. The speakers grew fewer. That silence felt deliberate, like a dare. I climbed down the rusted fence and slid into the quarry pit, scraping my palms on stone. The air was colder down here, thicker,
It tasted like damp earth and old metal. At the base of the quarry wall was a dark opening, a tunnel. It was narrow and uneven, carved by machines that had been abandoned decades ago. I hesitated. Above me, faintly, my voice still carried. "I should have done something," it said. I stepped into the tunnel. The sound cut off. Instantly. The silence hit so hard I gasped. I took another step. Still nothing. No hum, no hiss, no whisper. Just my breathing. I laughed softly. The tunnel sloped downward, twisting as it went. Water dripped from the ceiling in slow, steady taps. I walked carefully, one hand against the wall. The further I went, the more the air changed. It felt charged, heavy, like something had been waiting for a long time and had finally noticed me. I reached a wider chamber. Old equipment lay scattered around. Broken carts, coiled cables, a generator with its guts torn out. And something else. Symbols carved into the rock. Not graffiti, not random, careful, repeated. Circles, lines, eyes. My stomach twisted. "These weren't miners," I whispered. A voice answered. "Correct." I spun. The young man from the alley stood in the shadows. He looked exhausted, pale, sweating. "You followed me," I said. He shook his head. "No," he said. "I hid before you got here." My heart raced. "They don't hear us here," he said. "Not clearly." "Why?" I asked. He gestured to the walls. "The rock absorbs it," he said. "Old stone, dense, it breaks the signal." I stared at the carvings. "Who made these?" I asked. "People who tried to stop it," he said. "Stop what?" I asked. He took a shaky breath. "The town isn't the thing, it's the mouth." Cold spread through me.
The speakers, he continued. The recordings, the broadcasts. That's how it feeds. Feeds on what? I asked. He met my eyes. Guilt, he said. Memory, regret, anything that won't shut up. My hands clenched. Why her? I asked. He swallowed. Because she was the first voice it couldn't record, he said. My heart stuttered. She screamed underwater, he continued. Sound doesn't travel the same there. The town heard the splash, the silence, but not her last words. My throat tightened. So it took mine, I said. He nodded. It needs a complete record, he said. It hates gaps. A drip echoed. I thought of the binder, the transcripts, the repetition. What happens when it finishes? I asked. He looked away. It becomes permanent, he said. No off hours, no silence, no forgetting. My chest tightened. Everyone listens forever, I whispered. And speaks, he said. I shook my head. There has to be a way to stop it, I said. There was, he said. He pointed to the far wall. A large circle had been carved deeper than the others. Inside it were names, some crossed out, some not. Her name was there, and mine. Confession, I said slowly. He nodded. If the truth is spoken somewhere it can't hear, he said. It can't use it. I stared at my name carved in stone. But I already told it, I said. You told it a version, he replied. The air felt tighter. "What happens if I tell the whole truth?" I asked. He hesitated. "It might free her," he said. "And me?" I asked. He didn't answer. I closed my eyes. The silence pressed in. For the first time in 10 years, there was no broadcast to interrupt my thoughts. I opened my mouth and began to speak.
My voice sounded strange in the tunnel. Too real, too close. There was no echo, no repetition, no correction. Just me. "I didn't push her," I said. "Not at first." The words shook as they left my mouth. I continued. "She was angry. We all were. We'd been drinking. She said she was going to tell." The young man stood very still. "She said she was tired of lying," I said. "Tired of covering for us." My chest tightened. "I told her to wait," I said. "I told her we could fix it." I laughed weakly. She laughed at me. The memory sharpened. I said, "She stepped back. Her foot slipped on the wet wood." I swallowed. "I grabbed her arm," I said. The silence felt heavy. "I could have pulled her up," I said. My voice cracked. "She was looking at me," I said, "right at me." My hands curled into fists. "She was begging," I whispered. The young man's breath hitched. "I let go," I said. The words felt like knives. "I didn't push her," I repeated, "but I didn't save her." The tunnel seemed to pulse. I watched her sink, and I told myself it wasn't my fault. The carvings on the wall vibrated softly. I told myself she'd come back up. I told myself someone else would help. My knees buckled. I told myself I was a good person. Tears blurred my vision. "I left," I said. "I went home. I slept." The young man whispered, "The town couldn't hear this." I nodded. "That's why it's angry," I said. A low rumble passed through the stone, deep, distant. The silence began to strain. "I didn't come back for her," I said, "not even the next day." My voice dropped. "I was relieved," I said. The rumble grew louder. The tunnel lights flickered. I was relieved it was over, relieved it wasn't me. The air grew colder. I said, "She was my friend, and I let her die." The rumble became a roar. Dust fell from the ceiling. The young man grabbed my arm. "It knows," he said urgently. "How?" I asked. He pointed upward. A thin crack had appeared in the rock. Sound leaked through. Faint. A distorted echo of my own voice. The town was listening again. I screamed. "No," I said. "I'm not finished." The stone cracked wider. Speakers hissed faintly through the walls. "I'm not finished," I shouted. The rumble intensified. The tunnel shook. The young man pulled me back. "You have to finish," he said, "before it takes it." "I don't know how," I cried. He pointed to the carving with her name. "Say it to her," he said, "not to the town." I turned toward the wall, her name cut deep into stone. "I'm sorry," I said. The words felt small. The rumble paused. "I'm sorry," I said again, louder. "I should have helped you." The crack sealed slightly. "I was afraid," I said, "and I chose myself." The silence deepened. "I know that doesn't fix anything," I said, "but it's the truth." The ground stilled. Then I heard it. Water, dripping, closer. A shape formed in the shadows. Her shape. She did not look like she did at the lake. She looked like she had before. Dry, solid, whole. She stood a few feet away, watching me. The young man backed up slowly. "She can hear you now," he whispered. I stepped forward. "I'm sorry," I said again. She studied me. Then she spoke, not aloud, inside my head. "You stayed silent because you wanted to live." I nodded, sobbing. She stepped closer. "That is the truth," she said. The rumble faded. The speakers went quiet. For the first time since I arrived, the town had nothing to say. She reached out. Her hand passed through mine. I gasped. She smiled sadly. "Truth doesn't undo," she said, "but it ends repetition." Light flooded the tunnel. The carvings began to crack. The names flaked away. The young man shouted, "It's losing the signal!" A distant wail rose from above. The town was screaming.
The scream rolled through the stone like thunder. It was not a voice. It was every voice at once. Layered, distorted, panicked. I dropped to my knees as the tunnel shook. Lights burst overhead, popping one by one. The young man covered his ears. "It's never been quiet like this," he shouted. "Not since before." The rumble turned violent. Cracks raced along the walls, splitting the carvings in half. Names shattered. Letters fell away like dust. Above us, speakers shrieked. Not words, feedback, pure, broken noise. I felt something tear loose inside my chest. Not pain, release. My voice was gone. Not stolen, returned. The air felt lighter. Her presence beside me faded, like mist under sunlight. Before she disappeared completely, I heard her one last time. "Go." I stood. "What about you?" I whispered. She smiled. "I don't repeat anymore." Then she was gone. The tunnel lurched. "Move!" the young man yelled. We ran. Behind us, the stone collapsed inward, sealing the chamber. The scream above grew sharper, angrier. The town was searching. We burst out of a side tunnel into the open quarry. Daylight blinded me. The air was full of sound, real sound. Wind, birds, footsteps. Then the speakers tried to speak again. Their voices stuttered. At 10, they cut out. All across town, one by one, the speakers went dead. Streetlights popped, windows rattled, car alarms screamed and then stopped. People poured into the streets, confused, panicked, free. "What did you do?" the young man asked, staring in disbelief. "I told the truth," I said. He laughed, a broken, disbelieving sound. "That's all it took?" "No," I said. "That's all it couldn't take." A final sound rolled through Black Briar, a deep, collapsing groan. Then silence. Not enforced, not watched, just silence. The young man sank to the ground. "It's over," he said. I wanted to believe him. We walked back toward town together. People were crying, hugging, shouting. Some looked lost, some looked angry, some looked relieved. The radio in the diner sat dark. The broadcast station doors stood open, equipment fried and smoking. I felt lighter with every step, but not free. At the edge of town, I stopped. The young man looked at me. "You're leaving," he said. "Yes," I said. He nodded. "I think I'll stay," he said. "Someone has to remember what happened here." I nodded. At the road out, I turned back one last time. The sign still stood. "Welcome to Black Briar. Population 2,103. The bottom line was gone. No warning, no command. I crossed the town line. For the first time in 10 years, the past did not follow me. But as the road stretched ahead, a thought settled in my mind, quietly. Truth ends repetition, but it does not erase witnesses. And somewhere, deep beneath the earth, something still remembered how to listen.
I thought leaving would feel like escape. Instead, it felt like waking up after a long illness and realizing the world had moved on without me. The road out of Black Briar stretched empty and gray. No speakers, no voices, no echoes of myself following close behind. Just the sound of my tires on wet pavement. I drove for hours before I stopped. At a rest area, I sat in the car with the engine off and listened. Wind in the trees, a truck passing far away, my own breathing. Silence no longer felt threatening. It felt earned. I slept that night for the first time since returning. Real sleep. No dreams, no water, no voices calling my name. When I woke, the sun was already high. For a moment, I forgot Black Briar entirely. Then I remembered everything at once. The lake, the tunnels, her voice, the truth. I waited for the guilt to crash back in. It didn't. It sat quietly instead, heavy but no longer sharp. That scared me more than the screaming ever had. I turned on the radio as I drove. Static, then music. Normal music, too loud, too cheerful. I turned it off. 3 days later, I reached a city that didn't know my name. I checked into a motel and stood under the shower until the water ran cold. I scrubbed my skin red, half expecting lake water to pour out instead. Nothing did. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt something familiar, that sense of being watched. I sat up. The room was empty. No speakers, no cameras, no red lights. Still, the feeling remained. I told myself it was habit, trauma, memory misfiring. I turned onto my side and closed my eyes. Then I heard it. Not a voice, a pause. The kind that exists just before someone speaks. I held my breath. Nothing followed. The silence stretched. It felt attentive. The next morning, my phone rang, an unknown number. I stared at it until it stopped. A voicemail notification appeared. I did not listen to it. I deleted it instead. At a diner, I caught myself lowering my voice without realizing it. At a crosswalk, I waited for a signal that never spoke. At night, I dreamed of stone walls and names carved deep, some crossed out, some newly added. I knew then that Black Briar was not unique. It had just been loud. The world is full of witnesses, cities that record, homes that remember, devices that listen even when they say they don't. Somewhere, someone is always repeating the worst thing they've ever done, sometimes to punish, sometimes to survive. I stopped running after that. I found a job that didn't ask questions. I rented a room with thin walls and learned to live with human noise again. Laughter, arguments, music played too late. I spoke when it mattered. I stayed quiet when it didn't. And when I felt the urge to swallow the truth, to smooth it over, to pretend something had not happened, I remembered the lake. I remembered what silence can cost. One evening, months later, I sat alone and told my story out loud, not to a town, not to a machine, just to the air. My voice did not echo. It did not repeat. It ended where it should. That is how I knew I was still free. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I wonder, not if something is listening, but if it always was, and if the only difference now is that I finally chose what to say.
I thought the story ended when I finished telling it. That was my mistake. It happened on a night so ordinary, I almost missed it. I was washing dishes. The window was open just enough to let in cool air and the sound of traffic far away. Someone laughed on the sidewalk below. A dog barked once and stopped. Normal sounds. Then my radio turned on by itself. Not loudly, just enough to notice. A low hum filled the kitchen. I froze, my hands still submerged in soapy water. The radio dial glowed. No station name, no numbers, just light. I threw it away, I whispered. I knew I had. I watched the garbage truck take it. The hum sharpened. Then a voice spoke. Not the town's voice, not hers. Mine, but older, thinner, recorded. You did not finish, it said. I stepped back, water dripping onto the floor. No, I said, I did. The radio clicked. That was your version, it replied. My heart pounded. There are always others, it said. The kitchen lights flickered once. I looked toward the window. Across the street, a man stood still under a streetlight. He was holding his phone up, recording. I turned away. The radio continued. Confession without consequence is incomplete, it said. I laughed weakly. That's not true, I said. I paid for it. The voice paused. Did you? It asked. The hum deepened. Images filled my mind. Not the lake, not her. Other moments. Smaller ones. Crueler ones. Times I stayed quiet. Times I looked away. Times I let someone else take the fall. My chest tightened. The voice softened. You are very good at stopping just short of truth, it said. I slammed my hand down on the radio. It did not turn off. Outside, more phones lifted. Windows glowed. Screens reflected light like a field of watching eyes.
I backed toward the door. The voice spoke again. "We are not the town," it said. My stomach dropped. "We are the audience." The radio crackled. "Stories want endings, and endings require honesty." I shook my head. "I don't owe you anything," I said. The voice paused. "Did you?" it asked. The hum deepened. My name appeared on the radio display. Then more names followed, scrolling, faster than I could read. The sound of applause rose, soft at first, then louder. Clapping, cheering, not from outside, from the walls, from the floor, from inside my chest. The voice spoke one last time. "Go on," it said. I closed my eyes, and for a moment I considered staying silent. Then I remembered the lake, the tunnel, the stone cracking open. Truth does not erase witnesses, but it does choose who speaks. I opened my mouth, and this time I did not stop early.
Technology that shouldn't know anything about me. I forced myself to speak. "Who is this?" I asked. The radio crackled, like it was pleased I had finally joined the conversation.